Hey guys, what's up? I am your girl Jenna, and today I have with me a special guest. I have Joey Langenbrunner, who is the ambassador at large for Liberland. Guys, if you have not heard about Liberland, you are going to learn all about it today. I am super excited. Thanks for coming on today, Joey.
It is an absolute pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So, Joey, will you please introduce yourself to everyone who may not know you? Because I know you're kind of a big deal in the crypto industry, and also how you got involved with Liberland.
Yeah, sure. So here, I just want to back it up a little bit about like what like Liberland is and like why we're doing it, and then like let me go into like why and how I got involved.
All right.
So So like in this crypto world, like we're always talking about like decentralization and all this stuff, and like we're using like XRP and Bitcoin and Ethereum as payments things, and like that's great and that's awesome. And now you have like all these like Web3 to like decentralize like organizations and having DAOs and stuff like that. But what if we start a new country where like all of like the governance, so we'll hear these terms a lot, like, oh, like governance on a DAO and stuff like that. But what if we actually put a government on the blockchain on a DAO using a governance token and all this? Okay, that sounds cool. I'm interested. So anyways, back in 2015, we found essentially a land that was unclaimed between Serbia and Croatia. And so we went there and we stuck a flag and called it the Free Republic of Liberland. And essentially, it was a bunch of like Bitcoin whales that were saying like, hey, like this whole like decentralizing thing is great, like separating money and state, that's fantastic. But maybe, just maybe, it might be easier instead of like trying to change the laws in the US or something like that, where it's like more like crypto friendly, more like decentralized, more of what we want. Maybe it's just easier just to start our own thing. So, like that's essentially what we did.
That's awesome. So, okay, there has to be like a lot that goes into this though. So I want to know more about like why someone would want to become a citizen. Like, how is it governed? How are you, like, is there a constitution? How does all this work?
Yeah. So, okay, so like tons of questions here. Yeah, so there's a constitution. I personally worked on it. We've had tons of lawyers working on it. It's open source, actually. So we have it on GitHub. So if you just type in like Liberland, and maybe like I'll send you like the link on it later, but we're trying to essentially like build it in public, of course. So we have our constitution, our blockchain code, all of that just on GitHub for people to kind of like check out and see. We want to be the most transparent government ever. But yeah, and so what's some of your other questions? Because I can go in so many different like directions here, but
Yeah, no, like you can go down the rabbit hole with it because, like, I guess I want to kind of know what, some of the beliefs are. Like, is this a cult? Is this like, can you get out once you're in? How do you become a citizen? Like, I have so many questions. So, like, I just want to know, like, is it a democracy? Like, how do you run things?
yeah. So I would say that if you're part of any country, it's almost like a cult, and cult is short for like culture. But you can so essentially if you want to get involved, it's all completely like voluntary. If you want to leave, that's completely like voluntary. But yeah, essentially we are like a form of like direct like democracy. So we have our token. It's called LLM, which stands for Liberland Merit, and you would essentially use that token to vote, just like on I mean, really like any of these chains, So we used on like Polkadot tech. So we basically just like copied that, and we're kind of using somewhat of like that governance. So if we want to like submit a proposal, anything like that, then we use like that token to vote. We will have like members of Congress that put forth proposals, and then the people can vote and stuff like that using their token. So it's essentially just like any of the other DAOs that are out there. We're not trying to recreate the wheel or anything like that in that aspect. There's tons of really good projects that have some great DAOs, and we're just kind of just finding what the best is and putting it together.
Is there a military and do you have a need for one?
Yeah, so here, let me give you an example for some of your viewers. So I don't know if any of your viewers have heard of the country of Liechtenstein.
Mhm.
But it's like a very small, like micronation in Europe, right next to like Switzerland. So they actually hire Switzerland to protect them, but they don't have an army. So when we wrote our constitution, and also I'll get into this like later for like diplomatic means, but we do not have a military, and it would actually be unconstitutional for us to have a military. But most likely, what we'll do is that we'll probably find a country that is near us or next to us, and maybe pay them some tokens or whatever, some money to essentially protect us. And that's good from a diplomatic point of view because we want to come in peace. Like if you're trying to form a new country that's super controversial, um, you know, like like the man or like the people in power, like they don't want something like that to happen, like a new country, because like it messes with the whole idea of like what a nation state is and stuff like that. It's like they don't want that kind of competition. So it's already controversial. So if we come in and say, yeah, we're going to have a standing military and all that, that's super controversial. So we're essentially trying to do it in the most peaceful way possible through like diplomatic channels and stuff like that. So for example, we visited El Salvador right when they passed on like Bitcoin law. We went down there and we met with some people in the government there, and we donated some Bitcoin to some charities down there and stuff like that. Just to say like, hey, like you are a Bitcoin nation. We're also a Bitcoin nation, so we have something in common, something that we can struggle together with, like against, like the Fed and like the central banking system and all that kind of stuff. But we're not necessarily trying to like fight that per se. We're just trying to give people like an option to essentially like opt out into this whole new idea of what like a nation state is. You know.
Sure. Do you think so by doing that? And that was through the Liberland Aid Foundation, correct?
Yeah.
So by doing that, do you believe that El Salvador will likely recognize Liberland as a country if they don't already?
Um. Yeah. Eventually, I think when it comes to anything like this, it just takes time. When you're dealing with any government, even from our side, there's just a lot to do and a lot of yeah, and also like if El Salvador would come out and let's say publicly, let's say, all right, like, we're El Salvador and we love Bitcoin, so we love Liberland and we recognize Liberland. That's great, but it puts their whole reputation on the line. So like these countries want to make sure that they're not putting their reputation on the line. So like for example, like if we went to like Taiwan or something like that, and if Taiwan would like recognize us, well, it's like, well, Taiwan, which is mostly unrecognized by a lot of countries, is recognizing another country that's only recognized by like two countries, which I can get into like later on. It puts the reputation on the line because it's like, oh, it's a country that's barely has any recognition, also recognizing another country that like almost doesn't have recognition. So like kind of puts them lower. And especially where El Salvador is right now, it's like, hey, this whole Bitcoin thing, their reputation is on the line with like the IMF, and all these other like nation states and organizations. So they have to be very, very careful with that. So if we're gonna have a country to recognize us, they're putting their country's reputation on the line. So then you have to really ask yourself, what's in it for them?
Sure. So, okay, what is in it for them, first of all? Like, let's hit that, but let's talk about the two countries that actually do recognize Liberland.
Yeah, yeah. So the first country that we recognized and it was mutual was this unrecognized country called Somaliland, which I'm sure, right, right. Like what? Like Somalia? Yeah, so essentially you have this failed state called Somalia, which is just it's a failed state. Like it doesn't really have a functioning government. It's one of the most dangerous places to go. But if you look at a map and look at Somalia, if you look at like the northern part, it's called Somaliland, and it has a completely functioning on the government, their own currency, their own army, and it's actually very peaceful there. I mean, of course, it's still like a pretty poor country, but like it's peaceful. It's like it has a functioning government, but it's not recognized by anyone, you know. And but actually, like Taiwan recognized them like 2 years ago. But we were the first to recognize them, and we have an embassy there. And then maybe like a year and a half ago, we got recognition from Haiti. So that's one country that also recognizes us. And then we have a lot of other like relations with like various other countries that I can't speak about like publicly. But yeah, so it's just really about putting like your reputation on the line. But it's one of those things where like like if someone is like aping into like, some kind of project or whatever, it's the most risk if you're the first person going into it. But there's most, but there'll be like more like reward, like so like if you got like XRP when it first came out compared to like, like a few years later, well, you know, who knew that it was gonna be a coin that was gonna really, really like blow up? And you could say that anything about like Bitcoin or a stock or whatever, like if you were there early, there's more risk and reward, but like you really don't know,
Mhm.
like you don't know, like because you can be like hyped about it or whatever and stuff like that. And and I'll tie this into like why I got involved in this project to begin with is because when I saw the team that was involved, and how passionate they were, and also just like when I'm like looking at the world's society or like the market or whatever you want to call it, we really need this,
Mhm.
you know, because like all these countries are so like bureaucratic. They takes, like they don't, like they don't care about us. And it's like, and humans in general, we can like grow a lot faster and be a lot more innovative and become a lot richer if they got the hell out of our way.
Oh God, yeah, but do they want us to do that though? That's the problem, right?
Right. Right. So it's like one of those things where like I used to do politics in the States and and I just got no idea, like I didn't get anywhere, and it was just like for me, just like such a waste of time. And I got just very, very I'm like desensitized, like really coming from on like the US political system and stuff like that, that I was just like, honestly, it would just be easier just to start my own country, which then at that time I go on Google and type in like new countries and stuff like that. And then I find out about like this whole like Liberland project. And for me, that was back in 2017. Um, and the president was speaking at a conference at like Anarchapulco down in Mexico. And so I flew down there and I introduced myself and got, involved like back in 2017. And like that was an awesome conference too. But yeah, it was just like this is so needed in the world right now to just innovate, because like that's great, we're innovating money, but we need to innovate this whole idea of just on like governance, because like if we separate money and state, like that's like that's great, like we're not even there yet. But if we just like separate like government from people in a way, but like tied through like blockchain tech, what's going to happen, you
Right.
know? And we're seeing like all these DAOs and what they're doing. They're very like innovative. And I'm not gonna, sit here and be like, oh yeah, like Liberland is gonna be the, like most prosperous country and we're going to succeed. Like, I don't know.
Right.
It's one of
Right.
those things like, yeah, cool, like I'm a part of a project and like I believe in it, or like I believe in this coin or I believe in this company or whatever. But like you don't know, but it's one of these things like it's just so needed. And this is the best chance we got. And that really just comes down to just good timing with like this tech coming to be. And then also, of course, finding land that was just completely unclaimed. And and your viewers could, like that's a whole other thing. And your viewers can go online and really just search it up. It's just like this like small pocket of land, about 7 square kilometers, so about the size of like Gibraltar. So it's like enough size to put a city, and that's about it. So we essentially just be like a free city.
So
You know?
how many, God, I have so many freaking
I
questions.
know, like I can go so many ways. So I'm like, where do you want me to go from here?
So
It's the
first of all,
show.
I guess by like this could be a really amazing place. Now, I would assume, because it's so new and everything. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into this. So obviously, like it takes money to start. And so I would also assume that that's why memberships are now $10,000. And I think that that's something that will probably likely go up in my opinion, because I feel like it already has. It used to be 5 grand, right? We have
So it's still 5,000 right now. So okay, so if any of your viewers want to become a citizen, they will go to Liberland.org and they will put in an application. They would get an e-residency card, and whatnot. So, but like the two ways is really just like doing work for us,
Mhm.
and we would really like prefer this way. Like, sure, like the second option is that you can just give us like 5 grand and you'll get 5,000 um of our LLM tokens, which is like the minimum that you have to essentially stake, to vote and stuff like that. But we really prefer people just to really get involved.
Right.
Because like, okay, cool, like $5,000, like that helps and stuff like that. But like when I got involved, I didn't really have like $5,000 just like throw,
Mhm.
like at this project. So like I really had to work for it. I worked for like a whole like year and a half until like I got like awarded on like my citizenship. And now I've been working since like 2017. So like,
Great.
but yeah, like we want people to really like help us out, because then we need people from from like this crypto community, like your viewers, like really come out and like help us out in any capacity. And I mean, like it could be anything, Jenny. Like we need a soccer team, we need a chess team, we need, if anyone has any connections to like your state governor or a senator, or if,
Your
yeah, I mean, of course, if
daughter.
you're like a Bitcoin whale, like we'll take, like some Bitcoin, of course, but like we're really looking for any form of help. Like if you're good at IT or blockchain, like development, or like, I don't know, maybe like you're Brazilian and some Brazilian population, or like some like politician down in Brazil, or I don't know, whatever. Like there's infinite things to do for a country.
Sure, sure. And
And
I
so,
think
like,
that's it. Everyone can contribute something, I'm sure. And if you're working towards the same things, that's beautiful. Now, this leads me to how many people, like what do you think the population could be like at max? Like what's comfortable? What are you thinking?
probably like 140,000.
That's small. And
Yeah, it's not anything big. Just like think of just one US city and that's it.
how many citizens do you have right now?
So we have about 1,000
Okay.
citizens, but we've received, I think, over 600,000 applications.
Wow. So you guys really have to then like start really looking at who you're letting in and who you want to be a
Yeah,
part.
we're very, very picky because we don't want to just take everyone in. So it's like, sure, yeah, you can like donate to the country and stuff like that. Of course, we'll never say no, but we're really looking for people that really espouse the ideals, that we want in our country. And I'll quickly go over that. And I'm sure if you're in like this blockchain world and you believe in the idea of like decentralization and stuff like that, then you'll probably have the same ideals as us. So essentially, like very small government, freedom of speech, all these kind of things that like were in the original ideals of like the American, on the Constitution, the ideals that Thomas Jefferson espoused, just fundamental ideals of freedom, like don't tread on me, kind of things. It's a core element. Or if you want to call ourselves like anarcho, I'm like capitalist, or any, or maybe I'm like libertarian, kind of thought. I would say it really espouses really from that, because if you think about it, like there's not really a country out there that really brings forth those particular values. And so a lot of these people who got involved on like with Bitcoin early on, they really espouse these type of values. And so like that's really what we're looking for. Like we want to see if this can like actually work, because when like the US came to be, these were the principles that started. And it's kind of like the reason why like the US became so big and so powerful and stuff like that. And like the US, like we lost our way.
Sure. Yeah.
Like such a long time ago. And I don't want to get too much like into politics, because I'm
You're
just
right.
like, like I left the political space, I'm doing something else, I'm starting something new. So like if you want to keep corrupting the system over there, you keep doing you, but I'm over here now. Like I'm opting out. Instead of using a bank account, I got like my Bitcoin wallet type thing. Like I don't want to fight anymore. I'm just opting out. Like I'm walking away.
Sure. And you know what? I think I'll be honest with you, and not to take us too far off topic, but you're
Please.
you're talking about the corruption and everything, and I think that a large reason why we don't have regulatory clarity in the United States is because of a lot of the corruption and money laundering with these three-letter agencies and everything. So, I think that that's a huge factor in it right now.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where like I'm not telling people to go out there and like fight like these agencies, like these agencies are the ones in power. And if you're in US on like jurisdiction, then you have to follow the law. End of question. But I'm saying that we need to build a completely different system and just opt out.
Yeah.
Realize that okay, if I'm in this jurisdiction, like if I'm a US citizen, I'm in their US jurisdiction, I have to follow the law, I have to pay my taxes, all that kind of stuff is just something that you have to do, sorry. But if you want to opt out, for the first time in our life, we're now starting to have options where we can opt out.
So let me ask you about, since you mentioned taxes, what are crypto taxes like in Liberland? I'm sorry, was that zero?
Zero. So we won't have any taxes. We will have voluntary taxes. So if you work for the country, we'll pay you in the LLM token. Okay. And if you have 5,000 of these LLM tokens, then you can become a citizen. Okay. As long as, like you're not a felon or a terrorist or anything like that. And, like we do like background checks and stuff like that. Or you can buy it, of course. And that's the way we kind of see like you paying taxes, but it's done voluntary. So let me give you an example. If you voluntarily pay $5,000 in taxes up to Liberland, like if you voluntarily want to, you don't have to, then you can become a citizen. But if you want to increase your voting power in our
Oh,
DAO, then you can give, let's say, like I want to just totally ape in, and I'm throwing in another 50,000. So now I have 55,000 of these LLM tokens, and now like I have a big voice.
oh, I
I have a larger voice in the political system of Liberland. And why? Because I have more at stake. Like these tokens are at stake. I literally have more at stake. So like if I make a decision that is like detrimental to the country, then the value of the LLM token is going to go down. So I'm going to be incentivized to vote, things or put forth proposals or whatever that's going to, like, sure, like push the price higher, but also, make Liberland a stronger, more relevant, bigger voice in this world. Because sure, we will be a small country, but we will have a large voice.
so over time it would be more and more expensive if you're not working for Liberland to live there because I would assume the value of the token, if everything's going well, will go up. And I mean, that's awesome. So people who technically could start there, their generations could also live there as well, as long as the family is holding their tokens, right?
Yeah. And this might be kind of like controversial, it's like if you would have a kid in Liberland, I mean, at default, they would have zero of these LLM tokens, like this, like merits. So they wouldn't have voting power.
Right.
Like that might sound controversial, but we want them to have something at stake. So naturally, the parents, and this will probably be like most of the situation, would give the child like 5,000 merits. Like all right, now you can vote, and stuff like that, or they'll work for it.
Work. I like
And then
it.
by the time they're, of a certain age or whatever, they have 5,000 merits, and they can go for it. So like we want these people to have stake. So like this might sound controversial, because it's like, oh, like the right to vote, everyone should have the right to vote. But seriously ask yourself, if someone has really nothing at stake, why
Right.
would they care? And like that might sound really bad, but like why would they care?
Right.
And this is not a new idea. So when the US came to be, originally you can only vote if you were a white male who owned land.
Wow.
So obviously, I mean, it shouldn't be just white males, but like the whole concept, like you can vote only if you own land.
But that
Because
part makes sense. Like it
right, that part makes sense.
state.
Yeah, it was like if you're like voting for higher like property taxes or something like that, but you don't own land, you're just renting.
Right.
Why do you care? Or the funding of the school system, like what if you don't have kids? So it's just like you have to have something at stake, or like you just wouldn't care.
That's
So like this whole idea of just like the right to vote, I'm like, I get it, that sounds nice, but like you have to have something at stake.
I like that. I like that system a lot. I think it keeps people like more honest. Like really. I mean, you're involved, you have something, you're 100% right. I really like that system. I'm down with that. And I think, people can't understand the value of something too unless they've had to work for it. Yes, some people will pass tokens to their kids, but a lot of us that have had to work our whole lives, like we appreciate what we've had to work for.
Right, absolutely. I think that's so important, especially when you're a kid and like you grew up like with nothing, like a lot of us did. Like, dude, like you earned it.
Right.
Yeah, and like you want that power, you know? And also like like people might not like this, but like if your parents like worked hard so that they can provide for you, I'm like they worked hard. They provided for you. Like I don't know, like that's life. It's not, you know, I'm not gonna say it's fair or anything like that, but I mean like that's life. You
Right.
know, whatever work that was done, it had to be put in.
So what happens? Let me see here. This. What happens if, let's say, neighboring countries do not like Liberland?
Yeah, so we're having a situation right now where so we're in between Serbia and Croatia, which is in Southeast Europe. And so right now we have the country of Serbia that is a bit more friendly towards us. But the country of Croatia, which I'm sure like a lot of your listeners probably have heard of now because that's where they filmed like what was that movie? Or show? The one with the dragon and stuff like that. But okay, yes, anyways.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
It was like this is like totally off topic, and it was a great series actually. Anyways, it had a bunch of castles and dragons, and it was probably like the most hottest show, and that's why Croatia's on the map, especially in the States. But anyways, they don't like us so much. Um, and so we're essentially trying to like figure out like how can we get this country to like us because like if we're in between two countries and one of them doesn't like us, we're gonna have a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Like one of them is like friendly toward us, and that's great, but like we need both countries that surround us so we can be good neighbors, you
Hmm.
know.
So I want to talk about any notable people that follow and support Liberland. And also we haven't really hit on the team, like who's the president of it and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'll just go down the line. Our president is this Czech guy. His name is Vít Jelika, and I'm totally mispronouncing his name. Our vice president, his name is Bogi Wozniak. He's from Chicago. Our foreign minister is Tom Walls. He is from like Fort Lauderdale. Our secretary of state, his name is Tariq. He's from London. We got my good friend Michael, who's Minister of Justice in Amsterdam. And then we have about maybe like 90 or so like representatives. We're actually opening up our representative office in Mexico City, I think like this week. So we're doing like a big event down there for that. And then like notable people that are involved. I'm sure people here might have heard of like Ron Paul,
Yeah.
but he is a citizen. I was actually there when they handed him the passport. Um, also, like Roger Veer is heavily involved as well. Um, and there's a few other people that probably want to stay private, but yeah, but I mean like but really it's more of just like most of the people that we get the most like help, like it's just from like average Joes like me and you. Not that we're average, but like, like we're not super famous, but maybe one day we'll be famous. Maybe our show will be like the hottest thing ever. I'm sure, and I'm sure it will. But like it's mostly coming from like the community. I mean, like that's what puts in like the hard work. Like our chief of staff, his name is Pitar, and he works probably like 20 hours every single day, like just like ridiculous, like checking emails, printing out e-residency cards, dealing with like representatives. Like that guy is on fire, and he has a team. We have like a development team that is working on our blockchain. we have all these different reps in, like, let's say like Bangladesh, France, the States, Mexico, Colombia, all over the world that are, that are all like working hard in their own, in their own way. So it's just like a lot of people put in a lot of work, but it's one of those things like you don't necessarily see it, but like that's like any project or like any company. Like, like you got like Elon Musk and he owns just like a bunch of companies. And then it's like, oh, there's so much success here, here, here. And people just think of Elon Musk, but
Right.
forget that there's maybe like, I don't know, like 50,000 of his employees under him. He would
It,
be
re-
nothing like this.
it reminds me of like, have you ever seen that poster where you see the tip of the iceberg and then the whole rest
Right.
is
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
underneath the
exactly.
water?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, no, that's exactly the yeah, no, that's exactly the thing. And also like in any project, if anyone gets involved, like with Liberland, it's one of those things where it is tough work. Like it's not easy. So like sometimes like people will come for 6 months, a year, 2 years, get burned out, leave,
okay.
you know. And it's just one of those things. But we've had like a core team with us for so long, the real patriots of Liberland. And just the fact that every single week, they're doing stuff. They're showing up for our calls, because I probably have like maybe 5 or 6 calls a week, and I'm always doing stuff. It's a lot of work. And it's not necessarily like I'm getting a paycheck for that. Like, okay, like I'll get paid in tokens for doing the work and stuff like that. But I mean, like the token hasn't even launched. I can't do anything with the token. So right now it's just like a Chuck E. Cheese token to me, like, So, like it doesn't put food on my table.
Right.
So I have, like the work and like my companies that do on the side to essentially like, so I can put food on the table. So if someone's looking for that, like this is not going to be like that. It's
Sure.
like you're building not just a community from scratch, but a country from scratch.
Right.
So if any of your viewers like got involved with whatever, like whatever on like blockchain project from, like early on, like you're building a community, that's great.
Yeah.
That's hard. Building a country, like a
There's
hundred
so
hard.
much.
Yeah,
Like
there's so much. Like,
I've been trying to wrap my head around this, and because you don't really think about it, just like, and I know it takes time to build a country and everything and establish, but I'm just thinking about, like water, roads, cell phone towers, internet, like,
we haven't
your
even gone to that yet.
everything, literally. Like it's a lot.
Yeah, so I mean, some people will say like, "Oh, like Liberland hasn't do anything. Like it's been so long because we're coming up on 8 years now. Our eighth anniversary will be April 13th. Um, it's just like like 8 years. Like you like, what do you have to show for it? And like they don't say anything. And I'm just like, dude, like a year and a half ago, like we got recognition from Haiti. Like that's a UN recognized country, and we have other diplomatic like relations. Like we went to El Salvador and like we met with the government down there. Like
Those are
that's
big
cool.
steps.
Like there's a few other countries where we've met with the government. Like we just signed a deal in like Malawi like 3 or 4 months ago. Probably some of your viewers probably haven't heard of like that country. It's just a country in Southeast Africa, you
Right.
know. And so like we're all over the world trying to talk to various governments, and we have a huge team in Africa, we have a team in South America, and probably like our biggest teams are in the US and Europe, of course. But trying to get a European country or like the US or Canada to like recognize us, like that's that's going to take forever. Or what we're working right now is trying to get like the smaller countries, like the countries that you haven't heard of. They don't have much to lose because like they believe in us, they see something in us, or like they want to use like blockchain technology and stuff like that. Those are the ones that we're trying to target. you
There's
know
there's a saying, and it just reminds me of what you were saying. It says, "Be patient. In time, even an egg will walk." And I think that this is, one of those situations. You wouldn't want to. Who would want to live in a country that was put up overnight? That it wouldn't even make sense. It
yeah,
was
that would not have a good base. Yeah.
no. So in your opinion, how far out do you think you are from it becoming a country?
Do you want the short answer or long answer?
I want whatever answer you want to give me.
Okay, I'll give you the short answer. I don't know.
All right, give me a short one.
No, like no. I'm like, that is a short one. Like, I don't know.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah, like I don't know. I mean, I could say and be like, yeah, next year we're going to get recognition from the US. Like, no, probably not.
like
10
livable,
years.
like where people live. Like,
I would say, I think in 5 years from now, we may start to build
okay.
like physical buildings and infrastructure. I think in 5 years we can get the type of diplomatic like recognition to start building. And let me tell you why. These things take a long time when you're dealing with trying to get like recognition on like from governments. So for example, there is one country that we're talking to right now, and they're telling us like, all right, like we can start this conversation. Sure, we don't mind. You guys have done some nice things for us, but your passports are not up to par to where they should be. For example. So like if you just like think about your US passport, like you don't think much about it. But like the passports that we first came out with, they're very secure. But this country essentially said it needs to be more secure. It needs to have like biometric data. It needs to have this and that. Or like we came and start the conversation. Oh, that's a lot of work. Like we already got like so many passports out. We got like this deal with this company to print the passports. Now we have to rethink all of that, and that's like a lot of money to like make a more complicated on the process that has people's on like biometrics. Now we have to collect the biometrics of all of our citizens. That's going to be controversial, like among us and stuff like that. And like that's just one thing, so to give you flavor. And there's like 1,000 plus things
Wow.
that we would have to do just to like a country will recognize us when like we start looking and acting like a country.
Okay.
And it's tough work to do.
Okay.
Like you can have like these huge corporations and stuff like that, and like, and they might have like the power and resources to do like these kind of things, but like we're not some big corporation. A lot of people just really just donate their time and money to us. Like you pay voluntary taxes. This is done on like voluntary. If we don't get enough funds, we don't get enough um, people's help, then we're not gonna go anywhere.
Right.
You know? And then that's a market saying, we're not really interested in this product. But I think people should be interested in this because this is the fundamental thing that is holding back all humans in this world. And if we can just show one small city that has like this type of freedom using a transparent blockchain technology, dude, imagine what kind of like side effects they'll have like in other countries. Like, the people in, I don't know, like Zimbabwe will say like, hey, I want a government like that.
Yeah. Well,
I
I
want
mean,
transparency like that.
it keeps blockchain will also help keep the government more honest. That's such a weird thing to say, honest in the same sentence with government, but you can reduce waste in so many different ways. You can track so much using blockchain technology, and I don't think people have even begun to grasp that on a larger scale. And I think once they see these things working, sky's the limit. But I think it will, set the bar, and other people will pay attention, like, oh, hey, why aren't we doing that, and start to question the governments more.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where like we're just trying to provide a way to opt out. I mean, if these people want to keep doing what they're doing, well, I mean, they're doing what they're doing. I can't do anything to like stop them, and I'm not interested.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just looking for a system that I think will work better. And I just want the chance to at least try it out. That's all I want. Like at the end of the day, it's an experiment.
Right.
Like this whole like American ideal, like the American dream or whatever, like it was just an experiment. Like we didn't know where it was gonna go. Like in much ways, like it was a success, but also in much ways it was a failure. And our Constitution, we took the US Constitution, saw where it went right and saw where it went wrong and adapted. So essentially, like the way we really think about ourselves is that we're just a continuation of the American experiment. That's it.
I
So,
like
and there's gonna be places where like we're totally gonna fail, but that's fine because us as humans, like we live every single day and we're learning new things, and we live and we learn from our history and try to do things better and do like better systems. So like us as humans could like really be the best we can be, and when it comes to like Liberland will be the 21st century model on how a state should operate.
Very cool. Listen, we've hit a lot. I want to ask you one more thing, although I mean I have a whole list of things. But like we've really covered, I think a lot of the basics with Liberland. But I just want to know, like, what are the costs? Do you have any estimates on the costs to live there?
So right now we do not have anyone living in the territory right now, but we do have a settlement on the Serbian side about 10 kilometers south, where we do have kind of like a town hall and some like log cabins and a place where we can play like beach volleyball and a sauna and stuff like that. Mid-April, around April 13th, we'll be having our anniversary party. So if you just go to anniversary.ll.land, so anniversary.ll.land, LAND, then you'll go look at the details of that. And if you want to get interested, just take a flight to Serbia, fly into like Belgrade, take a 2-hour taxi north to this town called Apatin, which is on the Danube River. And our settlement is right there, and we'll have like a big party essentially, and we'll have some presentations. And if you want to meet the president, if you want to meet me, get involved. I mean, like that's the best way to do it.
So if people are looking to get involved, they want to do this, like you're saying, they may not be able to purchase it, but they have other, things that they could offer. They want to work. The best thing they can do is to reach out to you directly.
Yeah, and you could email me. My email is very simple. It's just joey@liberland.org.
Awesome. And I will post all of the links and everything below, so you guys have them. But Joey, is there anything else, like we hit on a lot, but is there anything else that you want to leave us with today, about Liberland?
Honestly, at the end of the day, we need this as a nation, as a people, as like citizens of the world. Um, we really need this. We need to empower the people for responsible like governance using blockchain technology. We have this technology. Let's use it for actual human development and not try to focus on like pump and dump schemes or something like that. Like let's try to like do something serious. And sorry for getting so many like notifications. Maybe like that's the time for me to cut off, but I'll end it with that.
Thank you so much for spending time to go over this. Like, I just find this completely fascinating, and I'm just so glad that, I've stumbled across Liberland, have the opportunity to learn and become a part of it if I want to. So thank you. I appreciate your time, Joey. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much.
Right. Take care.
All right, cheers.